Welcome back, everyone. I am the Depressed You, and this is Middara on Tabletop Simulator. I think, I think I'm gonna keep on going. So, we're just gonna dive right into this. We don't have Massacre, so it's gonna be It Wasn't Me, 387. Rook's eyes widened as he saw a flash of light up the mountainside. Get down! He dropped to the ground, tugging Nightingale with him and pressing his face to the dirt. What? Nightingale's objections were drowned in an explosion that left their ears ringing. A shockwave rolled overhead, showering them in chips of rock and shards of wood. Rook stayed down a few seconds more before finally letting go of Nightingale and sitting up. Not everyone had heard his warning. Remy had bits of leaves and twigs in her hair and was nursing a bruise. Shaylis removed a broken stick from her arm, then bandaged the wound with scraps of cloth. He didn't, Shaylis whispered, wide-eyed. How could Zeke have done this? Nightingale gasped. That idiot. Why would he put everyone in danger? No. How could he? Shaylis asked. I don't know how to break the Aegis Stone, and I know a hell of a lot more about magic than Zeke does. We have to get there and find out. Brooks strode past her and up the slope. The shield had once been at the base of the mountain. The earth all around it had been scraped down to rock, and a few of the closest trees were uprooted. The only thing left of the barrier was the Aegis Stone, lying in pieces on the ground, surrounded by a small crater that was still smoking. Zeke lay on the ground 20 feet from the barrier, clutching at his shoulder. He opened one eye as they approached. Hey guys, good to see you. What the hell happened? Shayla stormed up to him, then dropped to her knees. How the hell did you break the Aegis Stone? I didn't. Remember Echo? She found me here, banging on the shield like an idiot. I didn't see her coming. Damn it, Shayla muttered, surveying the damage. That bitch can really heal anything, huh? Next time we see her, we need to make sure to kill her for good. Echo, Damocles stepped up beside Zeke. Are you sure? Yeah, pretty sure, Zeke scoffed as Rook helped him to his feet. She ignored me. She threw me away like I was garbage, then started some ritual. Must have blown the Aegis Stone apart. We have to get back to the Amaranthine. We have to warn Abigail and Tyrael to evacuate the city. Shayla turned to look toward the city, then marched away as quickly as she could. No one followed. After a few steps, she came to a halt, glaring back at them. I'm sorry, but I'm not going back, Zeke said. However it happened, the way to justice is open now. I'm going after her. This is our chance to get the Pontifex, Rook added. We didn't want this to happen, but now that it has, it's our responsibility to take full advantage. If Echo is down there, I have no business going back to Greyhaven, Damocles said. Shaylis locked eyes with Patrick for a moment. He finally sighed, walked to Shaylis, and put his hand on her shoulder. There aren't any hordes of monsters rushing out yet. It'll take them time to discover their prison is unlocked. Time we can use. Shaylis shrugged off Patrick's hand, stomped to the opening, glared down into the dark. Then we do this quickly, in and out, before we get ourselves discovered by the Shadow Lord. If we stick together, we can do this, Nightingale followed. Justice is depending on us. Rook leaned in and looked deeper into the hole. The ground within sloped it into a ramp, cutting back and forth along the inside in precarious switchbacks. As the group descended in front of him, Rook glanced backward at the destruction that Echo had caused to the Aegis Stone. He couldn't help but think that no matter where they turned, death was following them. He finally pulled out his weapon and gave one last look at the open sky before heading into the cavern. Hey, we got Zeke back. Zeke was found by the party. He is no longer unselectable. Go ahead and choose your active group. Well, thanks for your assistance, Remy. Really, I just used you for haste and to get rid of some frag grenades that we don't, or magic frags that we didn't really want to deal with in the future. There we go. So let's grab Zeke again. We'll rename this to Remy. Okay. Put Zeke over here. Remy can go hang out here for now. Alright. Need our card. Alright, what do we got? Some much-needed items. Banished knowledge, one of those. Proof of divinity. There we go. And one of the first things I'll need to do is get the Seraphim sidekick from Shayless and equip that, because that will be an upgrade. Alright, that is it for them. Okay, then do we have Reluctant Partnership? Yes. She's not herself, 383. Saphira pressed into the dark, trailing behind the group with Ezra and Bria. It's a good thing Shayless's friends are helping us, Ezra whispered. They won't listen to reason about Sharon, but at least their affection for justice puts them on our side. Saphira glanced at Ezra, but quickly looked back to the path. You forget that they also need the Pontifex. I haven't forgotten, Ezra replied. Bria pushed past Ezra, so she was just behind Saphira. What about Echo? She saved us from having to crack the Aegis Stone and piss off the royal family, but she's still a serious threat. We'll find a way to save her, Saphira replied. Her hatred for Sharon runs as deep as mine. Imagine the information she'll be able to share with us once we free her. Cut the crap, Saphira, Bria replied. You still love her. Sharon doesn't tell his slaves anything useful. You don't know that, Saphira snapped, stopping to turn and look at her. We're going to free her. For a moment they locked eyes. Bria was the first to turn away, pushing past him and continuing on. Just make sure you're ready for the worst. Echo surprised all of us last time, but this time you know what she's up to. I've sworn my life to stopping Sharon. I plan on doing just that. Alright, Descent into the EERIE, 388. It had been a long time since Remy had felt afraid of heights, but in such a confined space, she wasn't likely to be able to get into the air before smashing into a wall or being impaled on a stalagmite. It seemed to her that they were climbing down the throat of a long-dead corpse. A continuous updraft of putrid air rose past them as they went, and each new meter brought fresh disgust. Remy expected them to quickly plunge into total darkness, but that was not the case. As they left the cave's opening, then the farthest point any sunlight could reach, she noticed the eyes. Thousands of them were set into the walls, floor, and ceiling. They watched, unblinking and radiating a steady blue glow around them as their party passed. I would have preferred the simple darkness. Remy desperately wanted to slow down, afraid of slipping on the slick stone, but Shayless never did. She had to keep up, or get left behind with the eyes. Suddenly the group came to a stop. They had come to the first fork in the path. Yeah, glowing eyes. Alright, reward check. Do the players have the Chalice of Manala story relic? Yes, we do. Zeke has it. So we go to yes, weird glow, 389. Zeke stopped at the fork. He searched for any sign of justice, maybe her petite footsteps in the dirt or scratches she might have made in the walls. Any ideas, Rook? He asked, glancing over his shoulder. To his surprise, Rook was already staring at him. What about that? Rook asked, pointing at Zeke's pack. Zeke tossed the bag onto the ground at his feet and looked down to see a glowing outline through the fabric. The goblet Lakshmi had given them. He snatched it out of the bag, holding it up. The whole thing was pulsing with red light. You think maybe it's leading the way to justice? He asked, taking a few steps toward one of the corridors open in front of them. The glow didn't change, so he picked another one, then walked along with the chalice outstretched in both hands. No difference. We don't have time to play with toys, Shayless said, staring at him in complete confusion. What is that thing, anyway? Zeke lowered the chalice. A gatekeeper gave it to me back in Gehenna. She said it would help me out in a bind. She wasn't very specific. Shayless sighed. They think they understand fate better than we do. Her voice dripped with sarcasm. For all we know, she meant that you have it handy next time you forgot a glowstone. An old clip you got from a gatekeeper isn't something to bet your life on. Zeke tossed the chalice back into his pack. I hope not. That sounds like a lame destiny. Lost in the EERIE. Rook led them through the area as best as he could. Branching tunnels became more frequent as they went, and Nightingale wasn't sure how Rook was picking his path. She stumbled quickly along the uneven ground. There was no time to be careful about anything except finding the right way. Passages opened from nowhere, twisting into dead ends or continuing down into ominous stairwells. Carvings of strange animals appeared periodically, represented with remarkable precision. Halls opened up into balconies hanging above abyssal pits, or ended in abandoned monster dens. They encountered no living adversaries as they traveled, though there were many signs of life. Occasionally, Nightingale thought she heard movement behind them, but she never saw anything. She hoped nothing had found that the barrier had fallen. You have no idea how dangerous this is. The Maluma appeared, its hideous shape emerging from a crevice in the earth beside her. As usual, none of her friends saw it. You always say that when I'm getting close to something I can use to fight you, Nightingale muttered. That means we need to keep going. The alien shape beside her no longer seemed as terrible as she remembered. It didn't make her head ache when she saw its inward bending flesh or the eyes that bubbled up from within. There were already glowing eyes all around the cavern. What were a few more? I want nothing more than for you to find and collect a pontifex. That is the goal we share, though it is for different reasons. That's not why I'm trying to warn you. Nightingale paused for a moment, and Remy nearly ran into her from behind. The hall that they had taken was so narrow that they had to walk single file. What is it, Night? Sorry, got distracted. Nightingale muttered. She put a few feet between Remy and her before whispering to the Maluma. You expect me to believe anything you say? She felt something of a mental shrug from the creature. I have no reason to deceive you, human. Your mind cracks and bends around me. And with each passing hour, my control grows more complete. It is already too late. Bullshit, Nightingale hissed. We are near the domain of a Shadow Lord. It might be amused by our intrusion, or perhaps it has not noticed us yet. When it does, even my power will not be enough. We need to turn back. Nightingale scoffed. Why should you care? You're all about getting me killed so you can jump to a better host. There was a momentary pause before the Maluma continued. The Shadow Lord commands the souls of the dead. If you are killed here, he will enslave you for eternity, or worse, bar your essence away into realms beyond. A soul has value, even when it's small and pitiful as yours. Then I'd better not die, she said, trying to keep the fear out of her voice. They continued through the dark for some time until Zeke yelled, Hey, is this blood? He pointed at a reddish smear on the ground, down a fork in the path that Rook hadn't taken. He leaned in to inspect it, and the blood began to glow. Wah! Zeke shouted, his voice echoing down the dark halls around them. He staggered back and the glow faded. Huh? Shh, Shayla whispered, staring. Relax. We can't rescue Justice if we get ourselves killed before we even find her. Yeah, Zeke sighed, looking away from the blood. Sorry, He stared into the distance. Hold up, something's coming. A pair of tiny winged beings flew toward them, their bodies glowing just brighter than the many eyes. They looked almost indistinguishable from one another, except one had orange hair and the others was green. They wore scraps of red cloth that wrapped around them and a few tiny bits of jewelry. If they'd been on the surface, Nightingale might have thought they were cute. The one with bright orange hair spoke first. This is most interesting. Day we've had in years, finished the other. They stopped just out of reach, hovering in the air and inspecting Nightingale and the others with inquisitive eyes. Each one was about the size of a large bird. They didn't seem to be carrying weapons. What are adventurers doing down here? The first one asked. Zeke began to answer. We're travelers from a faraway land. Orange interrupted. Here to catalog the flora and fauna of the EERIE, finished Green. Everyone stared, speechless. No. Green hovered closer to Zeke, leaving a bright streak in the air behind her when she moved. Maybe you've come seeking the lost treasure of an ancient age, hidden away long before humans ever walked the land above. Or, exclaimed Orange, flying up beside her twin. They spoke in unison, their voices resonating and forming a discordant echo with one another. Maybe you're after the girl who fell down here. They smiled, showing their sharp, needle-like teeth. Yes, Zeke exclaimed. That's why we're here. Do you know where she went? The pixies met each other's eyes and then buzzed away a few steps, muttering to each other in eager sing-song voices. They weren't quiet enough that Zeke couldn't overhear. I wonder if the stone is gone. Yes, must be. They walked right in. They seemed friendlier than the last one. You think someone finally came to save us? They came zooming back suddenly, stopping only inches away from Zeke. Are you the one who destroyed the stone? Asked Orange. Did you come to rescue us too? Asked Green. Zeke glanced at Nightingale with wide, confused eyes, pleading for help. Nightingale could only shrug in response. He could see that his friends were as confused as he was. Yes, Zeke explained, standing tall and holding out his weapon in an exaggerated pose. We're traveling heroes. We're here to rescue anyone who needs help. That includes anyone who was trapped in the EERIE. Nightingale caught a brief glimpse of Shayless out of her peripheral vision, scowling at him. The pixies made exciting squealing noises, zooming around him with a few rapid, energetic circles. They left little lines of red in the air behind him, glowing and crackling with energy. We need saving! Desperately, Green added. We've been down here for ages. They said this last part together, leaning against each other. We thought we'd never get to leave. Green bobbled through the air, down the passage she come. Come on, we need to get our things. It's on the way to save the girl, Orange added, flying down to his free hand and yanking him forward with enough force to make him stumble. It was impressive strength from a creature so small. It won't be out of the way. Come on. Okay, I'm coming, Zeke said, following behind. The others soon joined them, sharing a few nervous looks. Zeke could only grin back at them, trying to reassure them. The locals can show us the way, he whispered when he thought the pixies weren't listening. We won't have to waste any more time getting lost. And that's what the pixies look like. Not the nicest things that get, well, I mean, I guess compared to the things we fought, it's probably not the worst thing to see. The cleaver. It was almost impossible to keep anything straight in the twisting nightmare of passages. Remy tried her best to remember, keeping an abbreviated list of their turns, but after a few minutes she had completely lost track. The area was an uneven mixture of artificial structures and natural caves, without rhyme or reason. At least the pixies seemed to know where they were going. The pair bobbed and weaved through the air in front of the group, always just out of reach. Zeke didn't question them, and Remy didn't feel the need to either. If nothing else, the pixies seemed eager to get them through the EERIE as quickly as possible. They came to a halt in front of a massive metal door. It was crusted over with dense layers of rust and stains. Open it, Orange whispered. Quietly, Green added. We go through quickly. No noise, no trouble. Zeke nodded, then pushed on the door. It swung open on a squeaky hinge and moving infuriatingly slowly. He pushed it only far enough that they could fit through, then stopped. Good enough? The pixies didn't stop to answer. They just zipped through the open door and into the room beyond. It was a large room, a few 100 feet across. Sharp metal hooks with dripping slabs of raw meat hanging from many of them were suspended over grates. Remy shivered all over, trying not to look. She couldn't avoid the gore, though it was everywhere. Remy couldn't quite tell what creatures the meat had come from. No two looked quite alike, though all of them had been skinned and butchered. She was so busy not looking at them that she failed to notice the large metal counter right in front of her. She smacked into it with a thump, dislodging the large rack of knives hanging there. It fell over, landing on the ground with a cacophonous clanging. We said stay quiet, the Orange hissed, zipping an annoyed circle in the air around her. The soul butchers will hear you. Run, Green pleaded, tugging on Zeke to hurry forward. The others followed close behind, no longer bothering to sneak. They broke into a sprint but weren't fast enough. The door on the far wall banged open, slamming against the wall. Ah, fresh meat, came a deep rumbling voice that shook the room. A huge figure emerged from the doorway, dragging its bulk through the door. It was at least twice Rook's height and as wide as it was tall. The monster was roughly humanoid and dressed in thick metal armor, though beyond that the comparisons failed. Remy's eyes widened as she saw the opening along its belly. At first, she thought it was a wound, but it opened wider, revealing deadly-looking teeth and an obscenely long tongue. She retreated a few more steps, drawing her weapon. The monster wasn't alone. It had two companions, pale with rot, their heads wrapped in shredded black cloth. They had too many arms, and legs shot out from their torsos like a spider assembled from human corpses. Instead of feet, each leg stump ended with jagged blades. The creature clacked on the floor as they moved, digging huge channels in the stone and sparking where they crossed metal. The Soul Butcher licked the lips of its obscene gut mouth. Humans? It's been decades since I tasted humans. I can hardly remember the flavor. The pixie zoomed around Zeke in a terrified frenzy, circling him and cursing before flying out of the room. We have to get out, Orange yelled from over her shoulder. Kill quickly, before others come. Fresh meat, $3.92. A bloated soul butcher stands on the opposite end of a large pit. On either side of the abomination, more horrific creatures stand ready to confront you. The pits below this place descend out of sight, plunging into darkness. Their depths and what they contained are a mystery. Hopefully it remains that way. Alright. So our first encounter with a Soul Butcher. So one thing to note about Soul Butchers is they have Avarice 3, so that means they drop 4 loot cards in total. They have 4 armor, 4 movement, 14 defense, 80 HP. They regenerate HP at the end of their turns, essentially. They also heal from books. They do extra damage with shields. They cause paralysis with burst. They have Relentless and Hulking. And when an opponent casts or makes an attack against a Soul Butcher, they can pay a tax. And if they don't pay the stamina tax and they fail to actually do what they're supposed to do, the Soul Butcher will immediately end their action and immediately move towards them and try to do stuff. They have an 8 range attack that has a really powerful pull. And they also have the ability to do some extra damage. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Honestly, Soul Butchers are not that bad. I've never had one actually successfully attack. The biggest issue is that this place is very, very narrow, and the Soul Butcher can't actually get anywhere. And also, it just only has 80 HP, and Nightingale can easily pump 80 HP with little trouble. So they're just kind of big. They're just pretty much big loot pinatas, in my opinion. In any case, win condition is we got to get to the blue exit, which is on the opposite end. Achievement: if we can defeat a tortured immortal without it using its passive ability to remain in play for an additional turn, we get to get stuff. So the way we can do this is either through pits or the subjugator. All right, now here's the big thing: the mechanic for this particular run. Chapter 3 had low ceiling. Chapter 4 had dual encounters and crazy shuffling of parties. Chapter 5 has Lair of the Shadow Lord. The EERIE houses an abomination known as the Shadow Lord. Those who die within its domain have their souls trapped forever, and fresh deaths draw the attention of the already dead. When a figure other than an enslaved spirit is defeated, roll a black die. If a book is rolled, which is a 4 in 6 chance, spawn an enslaved spirit. When spawning enslaved spirits, place them on the space the defeated figure occupied. If an adventure ability would also spawn an enslaved spirit, they may only spawn enslaved spirits if one was not spawned as a result of this encounter rule. So you can't. I think what it's saying is you can't get charges for summoning enslaved spirits from enslaved spirits. There's a blue objective which will trigger if we go adjacent to it. The red objective just says read it whenever. Well, it doesn't have anything really. There's a blue totem, and that's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and load this all. We got everything loaded up. Let's go ahead and distribute our party. Zeke is hasted, so get him hasted. So obviously we need to deal with the achievement. Biggest issue right now is we actually have no pagers because we used both last encounter. So we're going to kind of have to work with what we got. I'll put Nightingale here. And Shayless can go here, and Rook can go here. Alright? Yeah. So the Soul Butcher is big, but he can't actually get anywhere. He literally can't reach the party. It can go around this way, but can't fit through here, which kind of puts it in a bad situation, and it can't fit through here. So there's actually no way for the Soul Butcher to reach us from where we're at. With that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a video. This is going to be a bit of a short one because obviously we just did a bunch of story stuff, but we'll go ahead and go straight into the encounter in a bit. So I am The Depressed Eeyore. This was Middara on Tabletop Simulator. I'll see you guys in a bit.